Hello, welcome to the Skeins of Dreams Knitting Podcast. I'm Megha. I'm also known as Skeins of Dreams on Instagram and on Ravelry. Welcome to my channel. I have some knitting, some sewing, some quilting to share with all of you. So let's get right into it. Today I have one finished object that is knitting related. I also finished a quilt like half an hour ago. I have been doing a lot of sewing, and actually a couple weeks ago I bought a new wide throat sewing machine for quilting purposes, but it's a Baby Lock Jazz 2, so it has a lot of features for sewing as well, and it has a wide throat for quilting. So I've been using it a lot since I got the new gadget. Obviously I'm like completely obsessed with it. So knitting has been a bit slower than usual, but I think I kind of needed that because I was getting like super overwhelmed with all the things that I had started, especially in the season transition. I do that a lot. Like I have a lot of projects going, but then it's the summer and I don't want to knit on a lot of the woolly stuff anymore, and I want to start new summer projects, and then things get lost. So I feel like this year, with my sudden interest and success, I would like to say, with sewing, something just clicked. And then anyway, so that has kind of calmed me down on the knitting front. Not to say that I'm not knitting, I have a lot of knitting to share, but just I wanted to say that I've been doing other crafts, and I hope you don't mind me sharing all of those on the channel, because I really enjoy all the conversations we have around it. So yeah, anyway, I said we'll get right into it, and then I started blabbering, so you know how it goes. So my one finished object, knitting wise, is my Cumulus Blouse. I have completed this stunner of a sweater. You can see how light and drapey this is. So I knit this in Sadness Garn Tin Lina. I think the color is spicy orange, and then I held it with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the color blood orange. And this is the Cumulus Blouse by Petite Knit. I've had this pattern in my library for a really long time, and I've always wanted to knit it, and I'm so glad that I did. Right off the bat, I knitted at a finer gauge. I knit at 20 stitches instead of 18. The pattern suggests to double strand mohair, and I didn't want to do that. I thought using the Tin Lina, which is cotton, linen, viscose blend, along with the mohair, might make it a little less warm. Not sure that's gonna happen. It's pretty warm, but of course it's the summer, and when I tried to pose for pictures, I was sweating so much. So I love how it fits. However, I kind of knew this when I was starting out with this sweater, that V-necks are a little bit iffy for me, in the sense that, how do I put this well? I am quite well endowed. So if the V-neck is too deep, it's not something I can wear to work. I don't think that's professional anyway, but I can wear it like to an evening out, so it will make a really nice evening wear sweater. But to be able to wear it to work, or to be able to wear it to a place where I'm not like in the mood to show off my cleavage or whatever, I will have to wear it as a sweater over something, and because of the V, it looks nice on a shirt with a collar. So I recently finished the Joanie top by So Liberated, and I'll put a picture of everything I'm talking about on the screen here. And I paired this sweater with that top, and it looks really cute. So I like the way it looks, and I'm happy I found a way I can wear this. So I think I'm gonna plan a few more shirts to make anyway, because I have really enjoyed making button-up shirts, because a lot of the store-bought ones, they gape in the middle and you can see your brow or something, and I don't want that. And I like that when I sew my own clothes, they fit me so much better, and I can strategize the location of the buttons and everything. So anyway, all that to say, I will definitely be making more button-up shirts in my future, and I will be able to wear this really easily with them. That aside, the pattern is really, really nice. I could have made the V a little shallower, but honestly, I'm not a big fan of a shallow V. It looks rather weird, especially if you have a big chest. I don't know, it has a very it needs to be just right, just at the correct location, and I have not taken the time to figure out what that depth needs to be and what the rate of increase is, or because this is a top down, so you increase the stitches. It has an I-cord edging on the neck. I could go in and tighten that a bit, but I doubt that it will make a lot of difference. I really enjoyed doing the I-cord edging, but I think the previous garment that I finished was also like a summer tee that I made. It was just a raglan that I self-drafted, and I did an I-cord edging for that. So when I was doing this pattern, Petite Knit suggests that you actually decrease stitches while you're doing the I-cord. So like every fourth I-cord bind off, you actually knit 3 together through the back loop, so you actually decrease. So every 4 I-cord rows or stitches, you actually end up binding off 5 stitches, because you do the extra, you're basically decreasing while you're doing the I-cord, and that helps to keep the I-cord kind of it doesn't flare out, and it helps to keep it normal. So actually, because I read that in this pattern, I went back and redid the neck I-cord of my green t-shirt that I finished the last time, and it worked out at the neck. Like, it looks much nicer, and it actually pulled in the neck a little bit, which I was worried that it was becoming too much of a boat neck anyway. The I-cord was too loose. So I figured out stuff, like I had never done I-cord bind offs before, so I didn't know that this was a possibility. So in all of the I-cord bind offs in this sweater, I decreased every 4th stitch, so while doing the bind off, and that way I think the I-cord's sitting nicely. The hem does usually tend to roll over. When I was blocking it, I did try to keep it straight. So right now it's straight, but I haven't obviously worn this, so I don't know how it will stay after a bunch of wear. I'm really happy with the sweater. I really like the drape and how light it is. I also have a bunch of yarn left over, so I was thinking maybe I can do some sort of a mesh here to cover up the V, but I don't know. And maybe I'll just wear it with the shirts like I've planned for now, and then see later if I want to make another version which has a different neck. I know Petite Knit now has a O neck, she calls it, or like a circular crew neck kind of a cumulus as well. But that's just a regular raglan, so I can do that myself. I did really enjoy knitting with this Sandneston Lena with mohair. It was a really, really nice combination to knit with. I did use bamboo needles. I always use bamboo needles for mohair, because in the past when I've done metal needles, my hand has hurt a lot towards the end of the garment. But whenever I use bamboo needles for mohair, it does not hurt as much. Yeah, so super happy with the garment. The red looks really, I think it looks pretty good on me. I wanted a bright sweater and I have it. So in the winter, if you see a glow stick, it just might be me. So so that was my knitting finished object. I have two major whips that I'm working on currently. I've reduced the number of active whips because I feel like I don't get through projects in a good time, and then if they take too long, then I lose interest. So anyway, so the next project that I've been working on is a test knit, and I had mentioned this briefly last time, I think. So this is for Elizabeth Margaret, who's part of the One Wild Designs, with Jennifer Parosini and Elizabeth have a business together. Oh, my Roborock just started. Sorry, I need to pause it. The Robo Vacuum loses battery if it gets stuck places because the cats leave their toys around all over the house, and then the Robo Vacuum gets stuck on it, and then it randomly starts at whatever time it feels like, usually when I have a meeting or when I am recording, so it finds the perfect time. It's weird, like I actually believe that there is a human living inside that vacuum. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm friends with Jen Parosini and Elizabeth Margaret now, and they have this business together, and I actually got to go with them on a trip, so I will leave that as a surprise. So I helped them out in certain ways, and hopefully you'll see all of that on social media soon. But for now, I'm testing the Sappho's Love Tea. It's due next month. I think 12th July is the due date. This is how far I've gotten. It's a top-down satin sleeve construction. So you start the back, then you knit to the end of the armhole, and then you're supposed to start the front separately, do the neck shaping, knit to the armhole, and then graft the shoulder together. But I cheated and I just picked up stitches for the front, and because I've done this before, and I need to find out whether picking up stitches is somehow has less structural integrity than grafting. I don't know, but the designer chose to suggest grafting, but I was too lazy. There was no way I would have done that because it was only like 20 stitches or something. So I was like, I'm just gonna pick these up. I've done it before, it'll work. So I'm really intrigued by the construction in the sense that I mean satin sleeves are not new or anything, but they're new for me. I live a lot in raglans and less circular yokes, more raglans, but I do want to get, or you know how I figured out how raglans work for me, the numbers and everything. I kind of want to do that with satin sleeves. I feel like they look pretty smart. But the armhole is always I feel like it's a little difficult to figure out with satin sleeves because I mean, even raglans have like this is a self-drafted raglan and there is some ease to it. So it does have all this fabric under your arm. So I need to figure out how satin sleeves would work. And what happened while I was knitting this was the armhole depth was only given to be 8 inches for my size, and I was like, there is no way an 8-inch armhole is gonna fit on me. So I made it almost 10 inches here. Depth as in the distance from your shoulder to the joining under the arm, the vertical distance. So I did increase the thing. I tried this on in the current way that it is because now I'm knitting the body. I tried it on and it feels fine. There is some, I mean, it's not right up against my armpit, and I kind of prefer that. I might add extra decreases if needed, if I feel the sleeve is too big, but it's kind of a figure it out as you go. I'm willing to let this one be an experimental garment because I can always wear it around the house or whatever, but I want to figure out this pattern actually is a very good base pattern, I would say, because it's simple, it has basic details. If I figure out how this works for me, and by the way, it's a 22 stitch gauge, which is like the perfect in-between gauge. You can get it with a figuring loose gauge, you can get it with a sport weight, you can get it with a DK, and make it a actual winter sweater. So I'm willing to let this one be like an experiment. I'm following all the instructions, except I've increased the armhole depth, which 8 inches would not fit me at all. So I know that Elizabeth is okay with that, and I'm gonna put all my notes on Ravelry as usual, but I have grand plans of making this sweater in wool this year and like for winter, because of course you can change the length of the sleeve. So I will make this in short sleeves, and I just remembered I never told you what yarn this is. So this is Cardia Concept Cotton Cashmere, in the color 54. So I really like it's a very pretty color, basically oatmeal, but I think it'll be a very nice t-shirt to wear in the summer, and it is really nice to knit with. I am knitting it with bamboo needles as well, and this is, I think this is US 3, so no, it's US 2.5, which is 3 millimeters. So it's coming along nicely. I should be done. I'm knitting. I'm doing like a 1 hour a day target on this, so I can get through the body quickly. The neckline has to be finished. It's like a simple rolled edge that she suggests, so I'm gonna do that after I finish the body. And then the sleeves are short, so they shouldn't take me too long, but I'm really enjoying the fabric this is making. I can tell already that this can grow if you don't knit it at a tight enough gauge. Right now I think my gauge is pretty as tight as I can get it without hurting my hands. It does look a little weird, but I think cotton usually does, and then it blocks out nicely. So that is the first whip that I'm going to talk about. I have been knitting on this quite a bit, so I think I started it late because it like Jen and Bess do like a 3-month testing period, and I end up, I'm like a procrastinator, and if I have a deadline, I know exactly how long before the deadline I need to start. I don't know, I've done this all my life. So anyway, I'm knitting on the Sappho's Love Tea, and I'm really enjoying it. Okay, before I tell you about my next whip, I will tell you what I'm wearing. So this is self-drafted raglan I made last year, and I used Sandnes Garn Lena for this. I don't remember the colorways. They should be on my Ravelry notes. I know this stripe is in terracotta, but I don't know if this pink has a name to it. But I made it last year, and I wasn't as much in love with it last year, and then I wore it for the first time this year, like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh my god, this is so amazing. It feels so good. It's so cooling. Like this is the worsted weight version of this Lena line, because there's a tick Lena, there's a Lena, there's a tin Lena. So this is the standard Lena, and I really enjoy wearing it. I wore it with like black pants to work, and it was perfect. So I wanted to knit another garment in this yarn, and then I remembered that I was like the worst test knitter last year when my friend Anina released the Lotus Lake Tea, which is a beautiful modified drop shoulder design that she released last year, and I was a test knitter for it, but something happened, life happened, and I just did not, I didn't even make it to like a substantial amount in the sweat in the top, and I just like I said sorry. And Anina was very understanding. I don't remember what happened. Like something happened. I got distracted or I got overwhelmed, and I left that project. But I was like, you know what? I love the pattern, and I had started it in San Lina, and my renewed love for it, I was like, I'm gonna pick it up, and so I'm gonna work on it. So I'm happy that I picked up an old whip. So now I'm knitting this Lotus Lake Tea by Anina Uti, who has the Annie Uti Knits podcast. And it's in this beautiful ochre color, and I think this will be so lovely. I just joined in the round. I'm very excited about it. I'm knitting this on US 3, so that's 3.25 millimeters. I get a 21 stitch gauge with that, and yeah, I'm happy that I picked up an old whip. I'm happy it's a project by my friend, and I'm happy about the color and the yarn, so this is getting done this time. I was a bit wary about knitting 2 summer garments at the same time because plant fibers can be hard on your hand and everything, but I'm going with it as long as I'm able to, and then the test knit will get done, and then maybe this will get done after that, but that's what's happening. I do love the fabric it creates. Like I said, this is cotton, linen, viscose. This whole episode is Sanya's Gun Lina line, because even my red sweater has the tin Lina in it. Anyway, so yeah, so that is actually my only other whip. I have been really good, and mostly because I've been sewing and quilting and all those other good stuff, and gardening a little, and I was traveling a lot the last month. It's just been a crazy month. I don't know what month are we in? June. I don't know where May went, basically. All right, so those are the 2 whips. Okay, so it's been 2 hours since I recorded. My hair is doing this thing, and I had to come in here and record this special segment. I received a beautiful gift in the mail all the way from Finland. Thanks to my very dear friend Anina. Oh my god, this is amazing. I had to come and show this, like today being the day I recorded and then being the day that I got the mail. So this is my acquisition section, I guess. Anina sent me the most beautiful yarns from Finland. Oh my god, can you believe this? This is insane. Oh. So this is Sauvilla. I think that's how Anina said it on her podcast. I'm so pleased with this. Yeah, there is no way I can say that huge long name, but I love it. So we have 2 in this light pink. 2 of, is this the same one? Yeah, 2 of these. 2 in the mauve and 2 in a darker violet. These are so pretty. Thank you so much, Anina. I'm so in love with these colors. I think I'm gonna make a shawl. This is beautiful. Thank you. And then that wasn't just it. We also received hand knit socks. These are my socks. Oh my god. Can you believe this? I think these are her Lotus Lake socks. So pretty. I have never made lace socks for myself, and these are so, so, so special. They fit really well. I already tried them on. And not just me. Baljit got a pair of socks, and these are his. They have a garter heel, and I think these are DK socks. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Anina. I love it. Baljit wore it as well, and they fit him perfectly. Thank you. This is beautiful. I can't, this is like receiving handmade items from people is like the best thing ever. Thank you, Anina. And there was other stuff. It's called the Mindful Collection, and they have these cute little scissors, I think. Nice. These will make the perfect travel scissors. And there's a measuring tape. I keep losing mine. This has cute sheep on them. Barber cords. I just realized that this segment I did not attach my microphone, so pardon me if the voice is a different level than the rest of it. I got way too excited about all this. There is a cute handmade tag. And there's some candy from Finland. I'm not sharing this with anything. Baljit gets the socks, I get the candy and the socks and the yarn and everything else. Thank you. And there is a handwritten letter, but I'm not going to read this for all of you. So thank you so much, Anina. I love it. I just absolutely had to come in and do this acquisition section. Thank you so much again, Anina. You're the best. And then I have two things that I'm going to cast on in the very near future. And these are both wool related because I think I have enough summer stuff going on for a while. But I had bought this Laland DK by Dye Gilpin brand in the, I forget the name of this color. I think it's Lynette. And I purchased this at the Knitting Loft when I was there for Knit City Toronto. And I swatched with the yarn and it was so nice to knit with. So a friend of mine and I are going to do a mini knit along where we're going to knit anything Irene Lynn. So as some of you might know, that this year my goal is to knit by a list of designers that I had figured out at the beginning of the year. It was a huge list, so as long as and they're all kind of new to me designers, so I'm any designer that's new to me, I'm adding to that list. So like Elizabeth Margaret, who I'm test knitting for, I've never knit a pattern of hers before, so she like that qualifies. And then Irene Lynn, I don't have anything by her, and I love everything Irene Lynn makes. So I'm making the Aura vest, which is a very, very beautiful all over lace vest. And I'm going to knit it in this Laland DK, and it's going to be amazing. So I do also have a goal of making more vests this year, but I have not gotten around to it, but I think I have to start somewhere. So this is what's gonna be cast on next. I think I'm gonna cast it on today, actually. My friend and I are doing a Zoom call later today, and I will cast on this vest then. So that's one thing. The next thing I'm going to cast on is something I think Selma mentioned, Selma of the Little Big Knits podcast. I just don't introduce her anymore because everyone who watches me knows I talk about her a lot. So Selma also talked about this on her podcast, on her latest episode, which I just watched this morning. Oh, it's The Pink Velvet by Andrea Mowry. And I've had this pattern in my library for a while as well. I think it was when Amy Palco of the Meaningful Stitch podcast, she made it in the abstract color work. That's when I kind of got into it and I bought the pattern. And then even Helle from the Danish Musings podcast made it. And I really love the pattern. So, main color, a red again. This is the Pearl Soho Good Wool. And I don't remember the color. I think it's Roma Tomato or something like that. Yes, it's Roma Tomato. I really, really love this red. And I have two options for the color work. So this is the Suri Silk Baby. No, it's the Melted Baby Suri by Ching Fiber. I had purchased this in one of their updates, I think a couple years ago. It's not even last year, I think a couple years ago. And I had planned it for something else. I also have two skeins of a boucle in this. I don't know what to do with that. This is a puffer fish. I think this is the puffer fish color. Yes. And I was thinking that this would be nice. It will be a little more abstract because I don't think this is going to pick up well on the color work. But my other option is this mohair in this green, grungy green color. This is spun right round mohair silk. I had used this for a t-shirt that I made myself. It was a circular yoke pink and green t-shirt, and I just called it Plant Lady because the pink colorway was called Plant Lady and this is called Buggy, like a buggy. So I really liked, I had made that was another self-drafted, and I'll put it on the screen here for those of you who I don't expect you to remember every single sweater I've made. But anyway, I have this skein left over from that project. I could hold this double for the color work, or I could hold the Melted Suri single for the color work. And I'm unable to decide. I was trying to ask people, and this one would be very like striking. But someone pointed out that it could have a ketchup and mustard effect. I don't mind a ketchup and mustard effect. Like, I can walk around looking like food. I don't care about that. Not looking like food, but maybe like condiments. Yes, looking like condiments. And then this one will be cute as well. I'm always a fan of lavender and red. So I'm trying to decide. I don't know. Do you have a preference? I have not. I should swatch. I should. But that's a lot of work. I have swatched with this Good Wool already for this project, like years ago. Not years ago, I'm exaggerating, maybe last year. And I know the needle I need to use, and it's a circular yoke, so I have to do the modifications I usually do. I'll start with a smaller size. I'll do raglan and creases because otherwise circular yokes just look very odd and they don't sit well, and I don't like the arm. And I'm aware that Andrea Maury's patterns sometimes on the larger sizes are a bit I don't know about the size. I haven't knit too many patterns by her because when I go through the pictures of the people who have knitted, they look very nice in certain size ranges, and then in the larger ones, they're not the way I would like them to be. I can make modifications, which is what I'm planning to do. But anyway, I'm just like rambling about this one project forever. But yeah, these are my options. And this is one of the things we're gonna cast on soon. So I'm gonna cast on the same time Salma does, and it'll be fun. So I gotta wind up the yarn and be ready with the needles and everything. All right, so that was mainly all the knitting that I had for you. I also have a knit chat section today because I had gone on Instagram a week or so ago and asked people for prompts if they wanted me to talk about something. So while I'm gonna knit on one of my projects, I'm gonna do that. But really quickly before we get to that, I want to show you the quilt I finished this morning. So hold on. Okay, there is no way I can show you the whole thing. It's a pretty big quilt. I would say it's a twin size. It's not a queen. One person can sleep under it pretty happily. And this is a cat themed quilt. Like, what do you expect from me? And in all my colors, like fall colors and pink pretty much with black. I like black. Black could be a fall color as well, I think. Maybe it's deep winter. I don't know. Yeah, so I finished this quilt. I did very basic quilting on it because I used it as a blank canvas to test out my new sewing machine, and I didn't want to get too fancy. There are a couple places where I tried like a zigzag stitch and some decorative stitches. I was trying different like foots on the sewing machine. I was figuring out, and then this thing happened where I never knew this. I had increased the stitch length, or was it the stitch width? And my needle went off in an off center position, and I was like, oh no, how am I going to sew after this? And when for sewing I moved my stitch width back to the normal width, and of course the needle went back, and I was like, oh, I was worried for no reason. For a good 1 hour I was stressing out about that. But anyway, so I finished the quilt, and this is the backing. This was not the intended backing, but the intended backing also had cats. But then I have this thing where I start out imagining a quilt in my head, and then I cut all the fabric, I lay it out properly, and when I finish the top, I have all these leftover bits of the fabric, and I'm like, I don't want to let that go. And so I just like start adding the fabric that's left over to wherever I feel like, so the quilt stops having the effect it's supposed to have. And then like I wanted to make sure that it's alternating like these cats, and there are no two colors at the like go together. But then I had all these left, so I started adding that. So it changes the way the quilt looks. Now you have two colors together, but what can you do? I would rather save the fabric or use the fabric completely than have a perfectly beautiful, like, aesthetically pleasing, let's say. I will do that for certain projects. Like I'm making a quilt for a friend of mine, and I'm going to gift this to her, and that's not going to have any odd pieces of fabric on it. But most of the ones that we use at home, I end up, because a cat's going to sit on it, obviously, so it's not going to, there's no point making it look aesthetically pleasing. Any quilt is aesthetically pleasing if you ask me. I added a cute little tag that says Skeins of Dreams. I got this on Etsy and I'm so pleased with it. I feel like I need one of those bigger tags people put on quilts, but I enjoy doing that. I did hand bind the whole thing. I used some scrap fabric, not scrap, but I had like 2 fat quarters, and I had to change the binding to a different one because I didn't have enough of the same type. But they basically go with this pink in the middle, so I feel like I pulled from it, and then it looks pretty nice with the pink polka dots. So this quilt is done and I'm happy. I didn't do too much quilting on it. I wanted something usable soon. I do have projects that are much more long term, and I'm hand quilting one of my quilts, which is a king size quilt, which will take longer. But sometimes I also enjoy making a quick utility quilt so that we can use it around the house. It has all the basic features. It has enough quilting as per the manufacturer's recommendation, the batting manufacturer's recommendation, and it's all done and everything. And we have, like, I'm sitting on one right now, and we use it a lot. So I'm happy. It's done. And I got to try on my new sewing machine. So that's that. Okay, all right. That was easy. And now I'm going to take out my knitting, and I made a list. I wrote down all the questions people had for me, and we're going to talk about them one by one. So if you're not gonna stick around for the knit and chat, thank you so much for joining me today, and hope you enjoyed all the content. But if you're gonna hang around for a while I knit and chat, let's do that. So I just put the questions in the order I received them. There are a couple, maybe I might not get to all of them. Let's see. Let me begin, and then I'll figure out if I don't feel like answering any of them. So the first question I have is things I like about Pittsburgh and things I miss about other cities I lived in. So a little bit of background. I have lived in a lot of cities. My father was in marketing. He used to sell tractors in India, this is. So every 3 years he used to take transfer, and we would go live in a different city. So I grew up in Rajasthan in India, in Delhi. There's another city called Faridabad, which is close to Delhi. I lived there. I lived in Hyderabad, which is in the south of the country. But some of these cities we did like multiple times. So I think I calculated, and I went to 6 or 7 different schools throughout my schooling years. When I moved to the US about 12 years ago, I moved to Pittsburgh. I went to school here. Then I got a job in Buffalo, and I lived there for 6 years. And now I'm back in Pittsburgh. So I want to say there are a lot. Already the preface to this question is like, you can make me talk for a very long time if you don't already know that. But what I really like about Pittsburgh is that it has a big and a small city vibe, both in the same place. It's not as crowded as some other big cities can be, while also having big city type facilities, and then drivable to a lot of major big cities like New York City or Toronto are not too far from here. So I do like that about Pittsburgh, and it has a character. Like in India, you go to a new state and it's completely different from the previous place you've been to. In the US, I feel like a lot of downtowns and a lot of cities, they have their own individual features, but I do feel like unless you recognize skylines and maybe I don't know, I feel like the cities largely look similar. I don't want to get too please don't come at me for saying this, but I feel like Pittsburgh has a lot of character because it's a much older city. It has a lot of iron and steel influence to it, and I work in the iron and steel industry, so I do have some affinity to that perhaps. But anyway, what I miss most about other cities, and this goes for all the cities that I've lived in and Buffalo, because that was the last city I lived in, I miss my friends. I go to every place, I make a group of friends, we hang out frequently, and then when I move, I have to leave them behind. So what I miss the most is the community, is my friends. So in Buffalo, we lived there for 6 years. I lived there for 6 years, and had a lovely group of friends. And we used to meet for game nights, we'd play board games. I had another friend who was basically my cat's foster mother. or we called her their American mother, because like I mentioned, they would go to her every big holiday when I would travel. So I miss a lot of my friends in Buffalo, and I think that's basically it. The people, I miss the people. Places, I can live wherever as long as people are around, I'm happy. So yeah, I would say that's what I miss. Okay. Someone wanted a planned tour. Okay, I'm gonna do this at the end of the video. I'm gonna put a b-roll of all my plants. You met Melanie already. She's sitting right here. She's giving me company while I record this episode. I have a few others. They're very strategically placed to prevent those guys with the tails back there to attack them, because both my cats are quite stupid and they will consume leaves and then throw up all over the house multiple times. Like, it's not like they learn, so they have no sense of self-preservation, like I've mentioned before. So they are very strategically placed, and in fact it's a whole drill I have to do when we travel for long durations. I put all the plants in one room and close that room so that the cats don't get any funny ideas while we're away. Hi, Oreo. No, maybe not. Maybe not today. Or maybe he will. He's thinking about it. You can't see him, but he's thinking about it. Oh, there he is. Okay, so I will put a b-roll of my plants at the end of this video. Maybe that's, I was thinking about what can I put as, usually I put like a picture or some video at the end, and I couldn't figure out what it would be today. Okay, next question is knits that I will cast on next and what I will finish next, and I think I have already covered that. Suri versus mohair and my thoughts on it. So I should have brought something made in Suri. Oh, it's nice that I have these two to talk through it. I did not plan that. I forgot about that question. So my thoughts on Suri versus mohair. I'm not allergic to mohair. I think that's the first thing. A lot of people are allergic to mohair, and I can see how it can be itchy. I've had some brands of mohair that have more mohair content than typical mohair silk yarn. The higher the silk content, the less itchy it is for me. The higher the mohair content, then it starts getting a little itchy. And some I have one mohair that's mohair and merino and nylon. It doesn't have any silk, and I would say that's pretty itchy for me. I'm not knit with it yet. Just in the skein, as if I put it against my neck, it gets a little itchy. And I can't. So Suri on the other hand is very soft. Like okay, what are you doing? He tries to give me puppy eyes, or I don't know what you call it for cats, kitten eyes, to pet him, of course. So Suri is very soft and no itchiness issues with it. I will say that what Suri does, in my opinion, is take over the project. I had knit a sweater, it's been like 3 or 4 years, in this combination. This is Autumn and Indigo Fibers Suri, and this is I think it's a Rambouillet yarn and fingering by the same company. So you can see that this is how they look, and they're very different. And this is the finished garment. Now I agree that the Suri is darker, so the color is darker, but I feel like this yarn, all its features are sort of subdued quite a bit by the Suri. So I feel like the Suri does take over the project. It gives it a matte finish, and it doesn't have that shine. So it doesn't have a shine. It's a lot more matte. It is definitely soft, equally warm, and I like both, honestly. You do get a good halo as well. This sweater doesn't, it does have a very nice halo on it. You can actually see it against the paint. And so does this. So I think they both have their place, and especially the allergic thing makes this. So this is actually a full neck, and I'm in the process of sewing this down. I've been mending a few of my projects, and maybe I should talk about them the next time. So I don't like when it's not sewn down, this rolled collar. So I'm doing that, but I can wear this against my neck, no problem at all. But I can't do that with mohair. So, yep. So that's basically, I guess, the gist of my thoughts on mohair versus suri. The next question is, how do I manage time and space with active projects, and how do I store my WIPs? Time and space. So I'm sorry, my yarn ball is all over the place. Okay. Time. I think I knit for an hour in the morning, and then I knit at least 1 or 2 hours in the evening, at least, if I don't have anything else going on. This is on a weekday. On weekends, it's a lot more. Like, I think I'm easily knitting like 6 hours on the weekends. I can do that because I don't have any major responsibilities, mostly kids. So I do get a lot of time to knit and craft and do other things. Yesterday I hardly knit because I was quilting the whole day. So time wise, I mean, if you have a much, and I do have a full-time job and everything, so sometimes I'm traveling and I'm unable to knit as much, or I have to work longer hours, or I'm tired, or I have yoga class or something and I don't knit as much, but mostly that's how much I end up knitting. Space, we are pretty privileged in the way that we moved to this bigger house and I have a whole room to myself for all the crafting things. That being said, it's overflowing with stuff. I have things everywhere in the room. It does get quite overwhelming, so I try to clean up, or I've been trying to use my stash as much as I can, because now there's a fabric stash and then there's a yarn stash, and I've accumulated it over the last decade, basically. I store my WIPs mostly. I'm just looking at the notes again. I store my WIPs mostly in bags, like project bags. I buy the project bags, and that has become a habit mostly because of the cats. Because if I leave projects lying around, then that's just inviting them to lay on them, bite the yarn, chew the yarn, because sometimes they get in those moods. So most of my projects will sit in a project bag of some sort, and I'll just leave them around my craft room. I'll hang them by the racks will have those vertical brackets or whatever, and then I just leave them hanging wherever. If there's a hook, I'll leave them hanging. So I do use a lot of project bags. I will say that I don't care about what type of bag it is. Doesn't have to be one I purchased. This is an organza bag that I got when I ordered yarn from, I think, Wool Warehouse, and I've just used that as a project bag. Like, it does not matter to me what constitutes as a project bag, but most of my WIPs are in bags, and which also sometimes hurts me in a way, because I can't see them all the time, and then if I don't see them, they're like out of sight, out of mind. So sometimes I do have to pull out the WIPs and leave them around in a visible spot but unreachable to the cats, so that I keep them fresh in my mind and actually get to them. One of the questions was if I have a nickname. I do not have a nickname. Some of my friends in my undergraduate college would call me Maggie, mostly because Maggie is a brand of, it's like noodles in India, like ramen, but not really ramen. They're noodles in India, and they used to feel that my hair looks like those noodles, so they used to call me Maggie, but that's about it. I have a pretty short name, so there isn't a nickname per se. One of the questions was what I do for work. So this is somewhat of a boring answer, I guess. I studied material science. I have a PhD in material science, and with a focus on iron and steel making technologies. So I know a lot about how to convert iron ore to iron and then subsequently to steel. And I did research and development work at my old job in Buffalo, where I built burners that were installed in furnaces that are iron and steel furnaces. So these are like huge, massive burners, not like your nothing compared to your stove burners, where they're huge burners that melt scrap inside furnaces, for example. Right now, I do intellectual property. So I read patents a lot. I read patents that are filed by our competitors and clients, and I keep a track of them. And if we are selling a technology in one country, for example, this is just like a small snippet of what I do, but just to give an example, if you sell a technology in a new country, you have to figure out if you have something called a freedom to operate. So you figure out what are the existing patents in that country, and then what's public, what's patented, and then you figure out what your technology is, and then how can you sell it, or can you sell it at all, and then if you do sell it, then what are the features you should avoid so that you don't infringe on someone else's patent. Like, this is a very small snippet of one of the many tasks that I do, but I can't get into too much detail about it, so I thought I'll give an example. So work life is a lot of patent reading currently. I also project manage some engineering projects for clients around iron and steel. So I'm kind of expanding into roles, but everything revolves around iron and steel process engineering, basically. So yes, knitting is definitely more interesting. Most embarrassing outfit. This is so funny because I have always been into colors, even as I was when I was a child, and I at one point for a birthday we would get a new outfit every birthday, and at one point I purchased this. I think this was when I was like 12 or 13 years old. I purchased this pair of bell bottoms which were bright red in color, and to go with that I bought a button-up mustard yellow shirt. So I do have a history of walking around like condiments, basically, to bring things back. So this is not too far, but I think the shirt was actually more yellow than this grungy green, and I wore that for a very long time. It's embarrassing in retrospect. I don't think I was embarrassed by it at all when I was wearing it as a 13-year-old. So I would say that was my most embarrassing outfit. I am knitting one again. It's just the way you put the colors together. I think now it will not be embarrassing when I make this condiment sweater. I think I've talked about it enough that I should just pick the grungy green to go with it and make a condiment pink velvet. Yeah. Favorite yarns. This is a loaded question. I knit with a lot of yarns, and I have favorites for the current time and place. Like I said, I'm obsessed with the Sadness Garn Lena right now, so that could constitute as a favorite yarn. One I will say that I highly recommend. Two. There's got to be more than two. Dirarum Natura Gilead. Very, 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 very lovely yarn. Holds up really well. Has amazing stitch definition. I've knit cables in it. I've knit fisherman's rib or brioche in it. It's amazing. I really like it, and it works up fast because it's like a bigger gauge. I've had instances where I had to rip it out completely, re-knit it, and then re-knit it, and it holds up really well. I've used it for men's sweaters. Baljeet got a cable sweater in it last year, and it's very hardy, hard wearing, worsted weight, go-to yarn. One of my top yarns, I would say. I have a couple more sweaters quantities. I have one planned as a gift knit for my professor, and then I have one for myself, which kind of got abandoned because it was a cardigan that I need to figure out if I want to continue that project or start a new project. The other favorite yarn is Fiber Company Acadia. It is just so lovely to knit with. It has a beautiful sheen to it. I think it has alpaca, silk, wool, like blend. It's wonderful to knit with. It does pill a little, but it is very soft, so I would expect it to pill, but it doesn't pill crazy. Like, you can clean it once. If you knit it at a decent enough gauge, like tightly enough, it's really nice to knit with. I have a V-neck Semper sweater I think I made last year. And then I also have the Reflections vest by Heidi Kirrmaier that I made, and that was cables, and I love the stitch definition on it. The cables come out really well on that as well. Those are definitely my top yarns. I'm trying to think if I have any other. I do knit with a lot of yarns, and but these two actually I feel like I knit with frequently enough. I do have Holst Super Soft in my stash. I have been realizing that I got too excited and bought a lot of cones, and I can't wear garments in them, and so they don't get used up. But I have plans to turn my cones into blankets, so that will be useful to get some out of my stash. But yeah, okay, so 2 for now, and it keeps changing, depends on the season and my mood and what I want to knit with. But these two I think I always want to knit with, the two I mentioned. And of course there are like summer yarns. I like linen a lot. Oh, Camaro's Lovetant 100% organic linen is really nice. Like I have worn that raglan I made out of it so many times. I've washed it so many times and it looks as good as new. I really like it. Chainette linen usually works out really well. Summer knits and dream knits. I think I've talked about them already. I am wearing one. I am knitting on one. I have the Lotus Lake Tea next. I do want to make the Shona top by Irene Lynn as well, and I think I have like a pink summer solstice yarn or something in to make that with. Summer Solstice by Juniper Moon. I've not knit with a lot of Juniper Moon farm yarn. I have them, but I've not knit with them yet, so I'm excited to try that. But yeah, I think that is those are all the questions that I will answer today. Thank you so much for giving me these prompts, and thank you so much for sticking with me until the end if you're here. I hope you have a wonderful crafty time ahead of you, and take care and happy crafting. Bye. So basically this is the plant corner. That is the trio star. This is my pothos. There is another pothos. There is this peperomia, which is pretty much the first plant I got when I came to this house. There's a little bonsai here. And then there's the watermelon peperomia. These have been purchased at various locations. Some have been gifted. This was a gift. This is my rubber plant. And then hidden behind all of this is the snake plant. So these hanging shelves are, if they're busy enough, the cats don't jump on them. And I like that when they're busy enough, it just looks like a mini jungle. And of course I have a spider plant which is sprouting babies, and I did propagate one of the babies in a wine glass I got from a wine tasting. This is one of the sprouted babies that I planted on its own. There's some little figures here, and then then there's Dwight. And I do propagate the pothos quite a bit. I have gifted so many pothos by propagating them, and I think it's time to plant these. The roots have become pretty big now. I think I'm gonna start a new pothos plant and propagate more. I do keep these pothos under control because if they get too long, then the cats jump on them. So these are the downstairs plants, and let's go upstairs. This is a Dracena. It sits in our guest room. It has a brother. This is the other Dracena in the same room, but this one had some sort of a disease, and then we had to cut off one of the stems and there was a lot of issues with it, so we're trying to see if it survives. Currently it looks okay, but let's see, hopefully it stays alive. This is a massive philodendron. My grandparents when I was growing up used to have something similar in their house, and I saw this baby in a Home Depot and I absolutely had to bring it home because it reminded me of my grandparents. And this is a little jade plant. This is the most recent addition to the plant family in the house. I love it. It looks so cute. And finally, my monstera. I got this as a baby and that was the first leaf it had. I recently put the moss stick and helped it up a little bit. It's doing pretty well, I would say. Needs to be watered today, I think. But yeah, I'm waiting for it to become like a huge monstera. That'll be fun. While I was giving you the plant tour, both of them are waiting outside. They're not allowed in our bedroom, unfortunately, because of allergies and everything, but patiently waiting for me to come out. Let's go. Come, let's go. Come. Let's go.